Our last featured speaker of the day is named Sam Killerman. He's a social activist as well as a comedian and founder of the website It's Pronounced Metrosexual, which I have to say we totally used at Lyric for our trainings. I find it an awesome resource. Sam also produced a novel, The Social Advocate's Handbook, A Guide to Ginger, which is available electronically from his website for the low cost of a tweet or a Facebook post. And hopefully some of y'all already got a physical copy of it when you walked in today. Cool, without further ado, let's give it up for Sam.
Thank you. Hello. 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 How about another round of applause for everybody who's spoken? Wow, I was fortunate enough to be here for pretty much the entire day, and I am so thankful to be here, and I've interacted with some of you wonderful young people, and I gotta say that when I chat with my friends about high school kids, the phrase kids these days always comes up, and I'm like, have y'all talked to kids these days? Because they're not what we were. We were shitty high school kids. We were. Like, we didn't do anything even remotely civically minded. And then I talk with kids these days on the Tumblrs and the Twitters, and it's amazing. So I'm so excited to be here. When I asked what y'all wanted from me here, the objective was do whatever you want, which is dangerous. So I'm going to keep it all on. It's not going to be, it's the Tuesday show. No, I don't want to end up on a list. I don't know. I'm not usually around under 18 people. What I generally do is I perform a comedy show with a social justice message, which I know a lot of people think are two things that shan't touch. But I do that at colleges and universities around the country. And it's a pretty cool thing to do, and it's something that I never thought I would be able to do, and it's something that I do and I have ended up doing because I'm not gay, which is weird, and if that freaks anybody out, I apologize. I feel like this is going to be an affirming group for me to come out as straight, right? That's a truth fact, but the scarf is adorable. All right, let's move past the scarf. It's weird, and I know when I talk to people about that not many people are not gay, right? There are straight people, gay people, bi people, pan people, but a lot of people don't understand what I mean by not gay. And what I mean by that is that for a lot of reasons, people always assume that I'm gay. And that started happening when I was a kid, but I didn't realize it was happening when I was a kid because kids are just horrible, right? They were just like, call everything gay, and they'd be like, that car's gay, that locker's gay, Sam's gay, I'm out of here, and like go and do some horrible comedy show somewhere else, whatever they were doing. These kids are terrible to each other sometimes. But when I was in college, it started happening, and I realized that it was actually that people were misunderstanding my sexuality. And the first time it happened, I thought I was dating somebody. Which, if you can jump to the end of that, it's a sad story. So I thought I was dating somebody, and she thought I was her gay BFF. Oh my God. I've got a lot of these stories, y'all. We don't have time for all of them. But so how it happened was, I was ready. I was like, let's take this relationship to the next level. Facebook official, nothing weird, not gonna end up on a list. And she goes, what do you mean? And I was like, do you want to be boyfriend and girlfriend on Facebook? And she said, but you're gay. And I was like, no, I'm not. It was a weird thing to say to my girlfriend, right? But I was pretty sure that I knew how to answer that one. I was like, no, I'm not. She goes, yes, you are. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing this argument. Like, I cannot lose this argument. I can do this. Come on, Sam. I was in college. I was studying law. And I was like, I can do this. Bring in some evidence. And I was like, okay. We had made out a bunch of times. Not bragging. Okay, kind of bragging. A little bit bragging. No. And she said, and I'm quoting, because this is burned into my brain. She said, I just thought that's what all gay people did. Which is the weirdest stereotype for gay people I've ever heard in my life. Like, all gay men are just making out with chicks all the time. You know that guy Ricky? That dude's super gay. He's always banging chicks. Like, that's not a stereotype for gay people. It's not even like a stereotype. She made it up and nailed me with it. So we kept dating for a couple weeks. If you're ever in that situation, you're not going to win. Just get out. It's not a healthy situation. But yeah, it was weird. And when that happened, it kept happening over and over and over again. And I was really freaked out, to be honest. I was totally freaked out at first. And after a short while, I went to a great resource at the university where I was at called the Queer Resource Center. And I found a person who was willing to chat with me and have really scary for me and probably funny for them conversations about what the hell is happening to me over and over and over again. And what was interesting is after a while I realized that what was happening has nothing to do with my sexuality and everything to do with my gender. Two things that we always assume are invariably intermeshed, but are very much separate things that we experience in separate ways. And for me, I had never thought about gender. I had that privilege of never thinking about gender because I was a dude, right? And dudes don't have a gender. They do. Dudes have dude gender. And I never thought about that before. I had never thought about sexuality either, but I was kind of forced to. And after a while, it not only became something that I was comfortable with, or more comfortable with, but it became something that I was really kind of obsessed with. And I remember when the turning point happened, I was at this party, and my friend comes walking up to me with this gal. And I don't realize, but a few minutes before she had told my friend, she's like, hey, your friend Sam's really cute. It's too bad he's gay. And my friend, who was evil, said, you need to tell him that. He loves hearing that he's cute. And just left it at that because he's a jerk and like comes over with this poor person. He's like, here, tell him what you just told me. And she said, hey, you're really cute. It's too bad you're gay. And I just laughed. And that was the first time I had laughed about that. Like before that, I was really uncomfortable. And I laughed. And I was like, ha 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 ha. Or you've heard of those laughs. And my friend's laughing because he's evil. So he's like, ha 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 ha, or more evil laugh. And this poor person is just like, what is happening? She just said, you're cute. It's too bad you're gay. We're both like, ha ha ha. And I go, I'm sorry, but I'm not gay, which is weird, because I apologize for not being gay. Great, let's move on. I know, pants are fierce. Let's move past it. I am just pretty. But I asked her, and I realized that this is when it changed my mind. I asked her, I became genuinely curious instead of afraid. And I asked her, I said, why did you think I was gay? And she goes, oh, I don't know. Because you look clean. Which is awesome by itself. And then she continued, and you talk good. That's not how you say those words. And I know that because I talk good. Like, that's not how those words work. Weird. I didn't know that those are the stereotypes. I didn't know that's what made you gay. I thought it was, what I said earlier, Ricky banging chicks. No, I was really thrown off by that. But I cracked up, and it was fascinating to me. And then I became genuinely curious, and I started learning more and more, and I started asking people questions that I previously was afraid to ask. I started talking to my friends, like my real life friends, about these weird experiences that were happening that I didn't before talk to my friends about. And I marked that as a pretty pivotal shifting moment for me. But it wasn't until recently that I realized when all this started for me. And this is a story that I've only ever told on stage once, but everybody's been telling these very intimate stories, and I feel like this is a safe space. So for me, the first interaction, the first experience that I remember having with my gender and with a difficulty that I have with gender is a very distinct moment. So when I was a kid, we were pretty poor. And we weren't like, didn't have a DVD player in the car poor. Like we were like legitimately poor. And I know, it's layers, right? And as a result of that, we wore a lot of hand-me-down clothes. I had two older sisters, Addie and Haley, and a little brother, Zach. And that was cool. Like, I loved my sisters so much. Like, I actually liked wearing their clothes because I looked up to them. They were, like, my role models, right? But that wasn't that cool because, you know, boys aren't supposed to wear little girls' clothes. We know that. This wasn't today. This is, like, back in the 80s and 90s when it was even more so that way. But I didn't get that, right? That didn't click with me. My sisters would be painting each other's nails, and I'd be like, paint mine, you know? Because it was pretty. I wanted to be pretty. But they would do it sometimes, and this is true, but they would only paint like boy stuff on my nails, like skulls and flames. So, you know, bro nail polish. So anyway, I remember there was this one sweater that had made it from Addie to Haley intact, And it was getting ready to make it to me. Like, I was like the size for the sweater, and I was so excited about this sweater. It was a purple, violet, like beautiful crew neck sweater that had a 23 on it, like for Michael Jordan. That was a basketball player back in the 90s. Those of you who don't know why that's cool, yeah. And I was so, am I allowed to swear? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna wear the shit out of that sweater. I was so excited about this sweater. It was like it was the only Nike thing we ever had. And I was like, I get to wear this cool Michael Jordan sweater, and like I'm gonna wear it, go to school, and it's gonna be so cool. And my mom was like, Sam, you can't wear a purple sweater to school. I was like, Mom, it's Michael Jordan. She's like, Sam. I was like, Mom, he's a bull. He is a bull. Like, I'm just gonna rock it. You'll see. My friends are gonna love it. And I put that thing on, and I just like strutted. I was like 9. I was just like, what up, players? Like in my Michael Jordan sweater. I wasn't like that at all. I was a weirdly shaped kid. My feet have been this big since birth, I swear. That's a lie, but they're big. So I was an oddly shaped kid. But anyway, I was like walking my sweater. And what I didn't realize at the time was the hierarchy of gendered oppression at 9. I didn't know that. So what I didn't realize was the coolness of a Michael Jordan sweater is not outweighed by the uncoolness of wearing your sister's sweater that's purple. And what happened was a really horrific experience. And I'm not going to share that in detail. It's hard for me to talk about, but I just remember the moment where I was on the playground and all my friends came up to me and started asking me why I'm a girl. And I said, I'm not, I'm a boy. Michael Jordan, y'all, like what's happening? I didn't even know it was about the sweater. I was so confident in that sweater that it didn't even pop into my mind, and it kept happening and escalated and escalated. And when I was being like physically abused, I realized at that point that being a girl is bad. And that became part of my realness, like part of what I understood at 9 or 10 years old. That there was something bad about being a girl. And that I should do whatever I can to not be perceived as girly or girlish or anything less than boyish or manly, right? And that was like 15, 20 years ago. And it wasn't until college that I realized that had never even happened. That wasn't a memory that was like part of my mind, right? That wasn't a memory that I thought back on fondly or thought back on at all. And when I look back at the ways that I expressed myself and who I was, the ways that I dressed in high school, y'all should have seen it, it was embarrassing. It was all I realize now in this attempt of trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't, being afraid of being who I was, and being afraid mostly of being perceived as something bad. And that sucks. And it wasn't until I started having these conversations that I even realized that had happened. And it wasn't until I had some genuine curiosity that I realized that this is something that is not only good to be curious about and okay, but incredibly helpful and incredibly eye-opening to understanding who I am as a real person, as a human person, and understanding my relationship with other people. And one of the things, let me put my phone, I feel it jiggling around. One of the things that we as activists, or we as a social justice community, if you want to call it that, are always struggling with, I think, is interfacing between ourselves, interacting with other social justice-minded people or people within the social justice community, and then also the other side, the people who look like me. They're not as pretty, but white, straight, cisgender men, right? Like, I represent a lot of what is the obstacle for progress. And that's something that is odd for me to make sense of, right? Like, that's something that I, on a daily basis, take stock of. I look at myself, I see who I am, I think about the privileges that I've experienced. Despite what I just said, that doesn't even come close to making my life a life of an oppressed person at all. I'm a very privileged person. But one of the things that I do, and one of the things that I try to focus on, is interacting with people who are like me. The people who are not wanting that. I'm from Texas, y'all. I said that twice in one sentence. I live in Texas. That is not a place where conversations about gender and sexuality are encouraged or allowed. I tried to speak at this school 3 times in Texas. I'm not going to say which one it is. You can guess. And they protested, and there was like actual student uprising. And I was like, you don't even know what I'm going to, what are you so afraid of? Do you know, I'm not gay. Like, I was like, I don't even know what you, like, I'm just saying stuff. I'm like, just let me talk to people. It's not that scary. Let's talk about this stuff. But I forget that I've been talking about this stuff, and I've been learning and hearing from other people and being curious for almost 10 years. And it's really hard for me to realize that so many people have never had a conversation about gender. So many people have never had a conversation about sexuality. So many people don't even realize the two are separate things. And it's really difficult knowing where I'm at, and the level of understanding and the level of passion and the level of curiosity that I have isn't shared by a lot of people. And I think that that's one of the things that we as social justice people struggle with, and you as young people especially will be likely to struggle with, is this idea that you're passionate about these things or you wouldn't be here, and it's so awesome that you are. Like I said in the beginning, it's truly encouraging and overwhelming to me that you're even here doing this. But it's going to be frustrating knowing that not many people, at least not the majority of people, know that much stuff. People don't know shit. Like, they just don't. And if you try to treat people like they are already interested in these things, or you try to guilt people into being interested in these things, or you try to throw statistics or throw stories or whatever, there's some really sad research that shows that if their ideas and their beliefs are challenged, the more evidence and the more reason to not believe that you give them, the more they entrench themselves in those beliefs. So that's a terrifying idea, right? Like the idea that if you're trying to make things better, that telling people why they need to be better makes them want them to be the same more. It's a really scary idea. So what then what then can y'all do? And my idea is, and always has been, cultivating genuine curiosity. I think that if you're passionate about something, if you're passionate about some sort of a movement or some sort of a cause, and all of you obviously are, then the best thing that you can do if you want to try to change a perspective is by creating curiosity where someone wants to learn. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn because I had some very unnerving, jarring experiences that pushed me into that, right? But I wanted to learn, and I've never stopped learning as a result of that. And I screw up, and I make mistakes, and I'm forever learning, but I wanted to learn. I was genuinely curious. And it's easy to write off the people who are kind of like, live where I live, and look like I look, and wear boots. I'm not wearing boots right now, but it's easy to write people off, but it's also, I think, more important to try to bring them into the fold. Creating allies, creating people who are passionate about these things we're passionate about, because those are the people, unfortunately, that have the power, right? That's how aggression works. My sister's house burned down last year, and I went out there to help her, like, build a house. Yeah, I bet that's throwing a lot of you off right now. Swinging a hammer, just like, you know? Leopard print, no, I can hammer pretty well, you know? I speak good, see? I was just hammering, doing dude stuff, just hammering away on the roof. And the other person who's helping me build this roof, his name was Woody, which is true. It's a really awesome name. And he's a carpenter in his 60s, so he's like the dudiest dude. His name is Woody, he's a carpenter, he's hammering, I'm hammering, we're just throwing it up there. And I'm just like, I need a nice mint iced tea. No, I was just hammering away. And Woody was like, what do you do? And I go, I do gender stuff. He's like, that's not a thing. Just like keeps hammering. He's like, what does that even mean? He's like, what do you hit when you do that? I'm like, kids, no. No, I said I do gender stuff. And he's like, and he genuinely just didn't know what that was, right? 60-year-old man named Woody who hammers things for a living. He's not really in tune in the whole gender discourse, right? And he was just like, when did you get interested in this and why? And I told him that story that I told y'all. And he goes, well, why does it matter so much to you? And I told him why, because it's a big part of who I am, it's a big part of who all of us are, gender. And he said, well, what impacts has this had on your life? And like 4 hours later, why do you care about this so much 4 hours later? What do you think this might have to do with the way that I interact with my partner 4 hours later? Next thing I know, we've been roofing for a week, and we talked about nothing but gender like the entire time. When we were talking and not just doing, nailing stuff. We were talking about gender, and it was really fascinating because I realized at that point, I've been doing gender stuff, as I describe it sometimes, for a couple of years. And I had a lot of prejudice about people who were very much like me. White people, straight people, cisgender people, man people, and especially older people. It's hard to talk to older people, right? A lot of us struggle with that. But through that, like through Woody finding a genuine curiosity, he actually wanted to talk about these things. And after a week of talking about gender, you tend to know a lot about gender. And after a whole lifetime of never talking about gender, and then spending a week talking about it, you really start to question everything that you thought you knew about your life. It was a really cool experience. Now, that said, did anybody see, and I just saw this, like, just saw this. That's what I was on my computer writing a response to. Any of y'all see the letter, or like I'm so frustrated by this. The Yale student, the white male, cisgender straight male Yale student who wrote the article about privilege, yeah? Anybody? Okay, so basically this thing, in short, it's getting super popular. I saw it on my Facebook feed like 12 times today. It's like a straight, white, cisgender man who's finally standing up for himself, which I thought was hilarious already. Historically, the straight white man has never stood up for himself. That's never happened ever in history. The first time, finally taking a stand against the oppressors, social justice people. And he wrote this super angry, like, I'm just going to do an impression of how I read it in my head. He's like, yeah, I got to Yale, but my grandparents aren't from this country. And that's like the whole merit of this argument. He's like, you tell me to check my privilege? I have bad days too. And I'm like, that's not how it works. But I read this whole thing. And if it was just me reading on some blog, like that's cool. Like you can do your thing, free speech and all that. Whatever, no. But this is the thing that's getting shared so much. Like on the share count of this one site where I read it was like well over 100,000. He's being billed as the poster child of privilege, but not, it's a real life phrase. Are you reading right now? Oh, okay. That's my face when I read it. It was just very unfortunate. So, and unfortunately, I have to like get on a plane. But I wrote a letter, y'all, and this is to all the straight, cisgender, white men out there. So there might be some of us in the crowd here, and if not, this is really for y'all just to. This is for me. This is for all of us. Let's just do this. This is my letter, both to our friend at Yale, and really just to all the straight cis, all the people of privilege, because all this conversation about privilege. Jana talked about that. Awesome. I've written these lists that are inspired by Peggy McIntosh's list that came out many years ago, called Unpacking the Knapsack of Privilege. And I've written these lists that's like list of heterosexual privileges and list of cisgender privileges. And those lists have been shared millions of times on my site. It's something that's getting out there a lot. And this article that this person wrote, I see as a backlash, which is good because it means that message is getting through of privilege. But the popularity of this backlash means that the message might not be fully getting through. So this is a letter to all my fellow privileged people. Dear us, this is for all the white, straight, cisgender men out there who are sick of having their privilege checked, who are sick of being discriminated against, who are, let's just say it, sick of being identified as white, straight, cisgender, and man, because that's not what you identify as. Wasn't it awesome back before we were seen as white, straight, cisgender, and man? I don't see race, you might have said. I'm colorblind. I've got tons of gay friends. I've been to gay bars, and I wasn't even freaked out then. I got into Yale solely on my own merit, you kid. We don't see ourselves as white, straight, cisgender, and man. I'm Sam, you know? Just Sam, so don't you dare try and assume you know who I am. We don't see ourselves as the protagonists in the world's not-so-greatest hits, from the Crusades to the slave trade. The Holocaust was us, but that wasn't me. It was just a bunch of people who happen to share almost all of the same identities. Why are you trying so hard to make me feel guilty? I get it. White, straight, cisgender men, it bites. We used to just be people, then suffrage made us men, and civil rights made us white, and Harvey Milk made us straight, and now Janet Mock, what's this, you're calling me cis? Yeah, it's a bummer getting called out for something you didn't ask for. But being bummed out doesn't mean you aren't privileged. Having a rough day or even a rough life doesn't mean you aren't privileged. Only you can truly know your narrative, and I can't tell you what it is. But my great-grandparents this, or my dad worked so hard that, or I had a tough childhood shit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you aren't privileged. Being bummed out, Because of who you were born to be, because of who we were born to be, we've been handed a lot of things. Among them, we can live openly, in safety, be employed and be ourselves, and nobody can legally tell us not to be. But there are a few ways we can react to this. 1, we can feel guilty. 2, we can feel lucky. 3, we can ignore it all and pretend it's a liberal conspiracy and continue to live blissfully. Or we can engage with our identities. We can have conversations that will expose us and make us vulnerable, make us question ourselves and find answers, help us better understand ourselves and others. You have a race, white man. You have a gender, man. You have a sexuality, straight person. Stop thinking of yourself as the default, as an unmarked canvas, and start thinking about what these things mean to you critically. Learn, challenge, grow, develop empathy. And hopefully, once you do, you'll realize your role in all of this isn't to be taken lightly. I know you didn't make this mess, and it's wrong to blame you for what other people did throughout history. Adding shame to the conversation doesn't lead to productivity. But allowing yourself to continue uncritically experiencing unearned privilege in your life is perpetuating oppression complicitly. A decision to do nothing is action in support of oppression. If you don't want that, change it. If you don't know how, ask. And if you're feeling freaked out, worried, nervous, scared, dazed, or confused, welcome to the new normal. The normal of a conscious life. And all my social justice warriors, kings, queens, and kings, and everything else in between and outside of that, I've got your back. Love you all. Thank you for having me.
My feet hurt. So I'm not coming back up there. But I just wanted to say thank you again so much, everyone who came today. It was such a success. Seeing all of y'all talk, speak, mostly listen to the voices of queer and trans people, as well as awesome allies doing amazing work for our communities. So my time here is basically done. I would just like to say that there's also a exclusive meet and greet with Janet Mock, which will be located. Can I get some arrows from someone who knows? Is it in here? In here? Yeah. So it'll be in here. Also, I would like to give a huge shout out to all of the young people who made this happen. So can we give a round of applause for every young person? So as many of you know, BAYS is completely youth-run LGBT organization. So everything that was put on here today was planned by young people in the Bay Area. So feel free to stay in touch with the Bay Area Youth Summit on Facebook at facebook.com/Bay Area Youth Summit, as well as bayareayouthsummit.org. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all under Mia Too Much. If you don't know how to spell it, you can look it in the program booklet. It's been fabulous seeing everyone here, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you much.
I'm gonna let you go pretty quickly, but first I wanted to bring the BAYS board on up here so that you guys can see our faces and know who we are. Yeah, get up here. Yeah, I know you guys are all embarrassed and stage shy all of a sudden. I know. All the way up. Where's Nick? He ran away. Sam, where's Nick? Is he wrangling the rest of the board? Nick is wrangling some more members of the board, but while he's doing that, I wanted to introduce myself. I think he spoke a little at the beginning. I'm Darcy, and I'm our current deputy director. Here comes Nick now. And next year I'll be stepping up as executive director of BAYS, and we will also very shortly be opening up applications for next year's board. So any of the people in this room could be standing on this stage or a similar stage to it next year, approximately 1 year from now when we host our next summit. So I just wanted to extend that formal invitation to all of you guys to apply. Be on the lookout on our Facebook page and our website for more information about that. And Nick, did you have?
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. I don't really need this, but
Yeah.
thank you everyone for coming. I know I have a loud voice. Yeah, so do y'all enjoy it? Was it fun?
Yeah.
We'll probably keep it in San Francisco, I think, next year. I think I like it here. It's great. You're in Castro. It's wonderful. Yeah, so I think with that, we would like to say thank you. You know, go out, explore the Castro if you haven't already. I know most of you are from here. Janet will be coming in for a meet and greet, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you.